Hi there, welcome to the latest episode of my 10-minute moan. And the topic of this 10-minute moan is the dramatic U-turn the SNP have made on the decision of the Standards Committee regarding Michael Matheson and his iPad bill. So, previously to this, Michael Matheson had been found guilty by the Standards Commission with 5 or 6 charges. They recommended a 27-day ban and a 54-day fine from his wages. Went to Parliament the next day. Now, it has to get voted on to Parliament to accept it. So the next day in First Minister's questions, John Swinney was asked about it, and he said he would back his friend to the hilt and he would not accept the findings, the suggested ban and fine for his friend, which was a bit bizarre. So we had, a few days of absolute bedlam with that. But now it seems that the SNP have U-turned, because they probably started to read the room a bit. So BBC News led with this: SNP back Holyrood ban for Matheson over iPad bill row. Angus Cochrane writes, SNP will back a Holyrood ban for former Health Secretary Michael Matheson, but are calling for an inquiry into Parliament's complaints process. The Standards Committee had recommended that Mr Matheson, who racked up £11,000 bill on his parliamentary iPad, be banned from Parliament for 27 days and have his salary withdrawn for 54 days. The SNP was facing defeat in Holyrood after the Scottish Greens indicated that they would back the sanctions. The Falkirk West MSP, who quit the Cabinet in February, is also the subject of a Scottish Conservative motion calling him to resign from Holyrood. First Minister John Swinney previously said he would not back the sanction, the harshest punishment ever handed to an MSP, claiming the committee had been prejudiced against Mr Matheson, but the party appears to have performed a U-turn on that decision. The SNP's amended motion for a parliamentary debate on Wednesday complains about the process but ultimately accepts the Standard Committee recommendations. If the motion was backed by all opposition MSPs, the SNP government, a minority administration following the collapse of a power-sharing deal with the Greens, would be unable to prevent Parliament from endorsing the punishment, even if all the party's 63 MSPs opposed it. This is the original motion for his ban. The SNP amendment is critical that a Conservative member of the Standards Committee, Annie Wells, made public pronouncements about Mr Matheson previously. Put forward in the name of the Deputy First Minister, Kate Forbes, it expresses regret it leaks to the media and calls for the Parliament's corporate body to conduct an independent review of the complaints process. Mr Swinney previously claimed Conservative MSP Annie Wells should have removed herself from the Standards Committee due to previous comments about Mr Matheson's conduct. He described the former Health Secretary as a friend and colleague and said Parliament's reputation could be damaged if the issue was not addressed properly. Mr Matheson also said he believed the fairness of the process had been compromised. A spokesperson for the SNP Holyrood group earlier called for a review of the complaints process to restore integrity and ensure we are never again in a position where politics is put before process and prejudice is put before Parliament. My God, this is SNP. The Scottish Greens backed the sanctions against Matheson, but previously raised concerns the committee had not applied a consistent approach to the recommended punishment, had allowed members to prejudge the case and had leaked draft proposals. A spokesperson for the party said it remains correct that Mr Matheson is held accountable for his actions, and our MSP group will vote for the sanctions, excluding him from Parliament and sacrificing his salary. The Scottish Conservative motion, which will be debated afterwards, accuses Mr Matheson of misusing taxpayer funds and making misleading statements. It is non-binding and unlikely to pass after the Greens said they would not support it. Mr Matheson has repeatedly said he will not stand down as an MSP. A £10,941 bill was racked up on his parliamentary iPad during the family holiday to Morocco between December 22 and January 23. It was agreed with Parliament that the bill would be paid out of the public purse, including £3,000 from his own office cost allowance. When details of the bill were first reported in November 2023, Mr Matheson blamed the bill on an out-of-date SIM card and insisted the device had been exclusively used for constituency work. Following days of speculation, he told Parliament his son had used the iPad to set up a Wi-Fi hotspot. He apologised and agreed to pay the bill personally and in full. He quit as a Health Secretary in February after more than 9 years in Cabinet, ahead of the publication of a report by the Scottish Parliamentary Corporate Body, which found he had breached the MSP's Code of Conduct. The SPCB report was then considered by the Cross-Party Standards Committee. Labour MSP Martin Whitfield, the committee convener, said the proposed sanctions reflected the seriousness of Mr Matheson's breach of MSP Code of Conduct. Had it not been for his mitigatory factors, including the impact on members of his family, the sanctions proposed would likely have been greater. After the committee findings were announced last Thursday, the First Minister raised concerns about the integrity of the process. Mr Swinney revealed he had repeatedly written to Mr Whitefield referencing comments from committee member Annie Wells, who had initially recommended the 27-day suspension. In a letter sent in March, Swinney highlighted a post on X in which Ms Wells said Matheson had misled Parliament and lied to the media repeatedly. The 27-day suspension was backed by Tory colleague Oliver Mundell, but SNP committee members Jackie Dunbar and Alistair Allen agreed with Mr Allen, describing it as extremely high compared to sanctions in previous cases. The deciding vote in favour was made by Mr Whitfield, who did not express a personal view but said the committee would otherwise have been unable to reach a recommendation. Mr Swinney told BBC Scotland News that there had been problems with the process. It's beyond justification that a member of the committee that decided on these issues had made public comments before which had prejudged this situation. In no other walk of life would this be judged to be acceptable, and I'm really concerned that it happened. Unlike Westminster, where MPs can be removed by constituents if they are suspended for more than 10 days, there is no recall mechanism at Holyrood. Scottish Tory leader Douglas Ross tabled the motion declaring Mr Matheson should quit Parliament and said a by-election could be held on the 4th of July, the same day as the general election. During a visit to Mr Matheson's constituency, he said the First Minister had staked his reputation on the former Health Secretary. He would rather support his good friend and defend the integrity of Parliament. Mr Matheson lied to Parliament, he lied to the presiding officer, and most importantly, he lied to the public. Scottish Liberal Democrat leader Alex Cole-Hamilton told BBC Scotland News that Mr Matheson should stand down and trigger a by-election. Michael Matheson has clearly lost the trust of the general public and the media. I think when that happens, it's impossible for him to represent his constituents to the best effect. So there we go, quite an in-depth report on not only what's happening tomorrow, but what happened in the lead up to it. And it's just mental, isn't it? That the First Minister was bonkers when he refused to accept the sanctions and said he would vote against them. And I don't know what's happened over the weekend and Monday and Tuesday, but obviously the party have realised this ain't got a good look to it whatsoever. We need to do a bit of damage limitation, and this is them trying to limit the damage. I think it's too late. If you liked the video, give me a thumbs up. If you have not already done so, please subscribe. But most important of all, unless you are Michael Matheson, John Swinney, or anybody else that's trying to defend them, everybody else, have a great day. Cheery bye now.